I'm Boone. This is Boone's Slot Car Garage. And tonight, I feel that we need to make some happy trees. So if we go to Bob, hi Bob. Bob's still sporting a slot car, good thing. But he has got what we're going to be doing tonight. We're going to be building some happy sedum trees. And this right here is sedum. So sedum you can find in your garden. And this time of year it's great because the garden dies back and it's winter time, and you can go ahead and start yarding out plants and whatnot, and your wife won't come unglued if you're tromping around her precious rose bushes and sedum bushes. So if we go down on to the layout, let's take a look at this stuff. So if we come down here, these trees right here are made out of sedum. Cool thing about sedum trees is they have a real high canopy, so you can see the cars at track level a lot easier. And some of the other trees that we made, like the evergreens and stuff, it's a little bit harder to look through those trees, but sedum, that alleviates that problem. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and build some of these sedum trees. And while I have material out, we're going to go ahead and build some bushes at the same time. So some of these bushes that are on this rock wall are made out of sedum. And you know, it's really cool because you can trim it down and it can make a real natural looking bush or small tree. So this guy right here is made out of sedum. This is a sedum tree. A couple of these other guys up in here. So that's what we got for sedum. So let's do this. Okay, so let's go through some of the stuff we're going to need tonight for this. You want to go ahead and get some spray glue, hairspray. This is acrylic sealer, and it's the matte finish. So you want some of that. Some PVA glue, we're using Mod Podge. Aluminum foil, and then you want kind of a stiff bristle brush, okay? So you can either use a bigger one or a small one like this, and a pair of scissors. As far as the Canopy Material, I'm going to use coarse turf, medium green by Woodland Scenics, some fine turf, some weeds, and that's also by Woodland Scenics, and then I'm going to go ahead and use some super leaf. Now there's a bunch of different colors out there. I'm going to use a medium green, which is in this container right here, and that's all super leaf. So when it comes down to the actual colors and everything else, as far as your foliage goes, I mean, you can use whatever you want, but right now that's what we're going to use tonight. So we come back, we'll go ahead and we'll grab our sedum and we'll start playing with this. Okay, so here is our sedum, and this is what it looks like in the natural form. All right, so if you look on the bottom side of it, you can see that it has some of the leaves and whatnot that haven't completely fallen off of it. So at this point, we just want to go ahead and clean up the plant a little bit. So these little items down here, you can go ahead and pick off. And just kind of get those out of your way. And they should, like these, they're just kind of crumbling right off because it's all dried. So we'll get that to that point. And let's see here. Any little stuff that's kind of hanging around, just go ahead and take care of it. And we're going to leave the top. Okay, so these the flowers have all dried, and we're gonna leave those flowers there because when we go ahead and put the spray glue on it, it'll have more surface area to go ahead for our coarse turf to adhere to. So at this point in time, since we have it all cleaned up, we're going to go outside. I'm going to go ahead and hit it with a good coat of spray glue. When we come back in, we'll start applying turf. Okay, when I do spray glue on this, I'm going to spray the upper side, and I'm also going to turn it over and do a light coat down around the edges in here, okay? I'm going to try to stay out of the middle as much as possible. There'll be enough overspray from the glue that goes in there that will have adhesion. So I'm going to go outside, spray this, and when we come back, we'll pick it up. Okay, so I went ahead and sprayed it with the spray glue. Now I went ahead and took my coarse turf, and I just go ahead and put it right onto my aluminum foil. And what we want to do is just go ahead and sprinkle this over like So go ahead and add a little bit into the inside of it. And then when you get kind of loaded up, just go ahead and give it a little bit of a tap, and that'll settle that down in. So give this a little bit more in here. Tap it. Here on the sides. Okay, now we got the lower pretty well coated. And we'll go up to the top. And we'll just go ahead and sprinkle it on. Some people, they go ahead and they'll dap it in like that. You can do that. The one reason why I don't really like to do that is because I have a tendency of flattening the coarse turf. So if you sprinkle it on, it'll keep it kind of fluffy. So it'll just make it look a little bit more realistic than all kind of matted down. So you just keep on doing that until you get a nice canopy on top. Okay, so I went ahead and I have that coarse turf over the top, and it's all down in the inside as well. Now you can see up in here how it's kind of sticking to our branches, all right? You could at this point come in and brush those off a little bit, or I'm gonna wait until after I get done with my fine turf, and then we'll come in and clean it up. So I went ahead and took my remainder of the coarse turf and I pushed it off to the side over here. Now I'm gonna take a little bit of fine turf and I'm just gonna go ahead and sprinkle that down. Now at this point, I'm gonna go ahead and take some hairspray and, there we go. So take a little bit of hairspray and we're gonna go ahead and mist this down with some hairspray, and then we'll apply our fine turf. So let's put this off to the side. Give it a little bit of some hairspray. All right. And now we've got our fine turf, and this is Weed's fine turf. So at this point, I'm just gonna go ahead and sprinkle some of this over on top. And this just kind of gives it that little extra depth. You don't want to go ahead and load it up. You just want to go ahead and sprinkle it down. Just a light mist onto it. Okay. All right, so we went ahead and we have our fine turf applied. And if you kind of take a look, you can see how it gives it a little bit more depth. So at this point in time, I'll go ahead and add a little bit more hairspray and to help lock that down. And now, last but not least, we'll go ahead and take our super leaf and just take some of this down there. Now with the super leaf, we're just going to go ahead and hit it lightly up on top. Again, this is something where almost the idea that less is more, okay? So what we're doing is just kind of giving it that last little bit of a touch to it. Just go ahead and sprinkle this on. And there we go. So we went ahead and got our super leaf on it. Now I'm going to go ahead and coat that one last time with hairspray just to lock that in. Okay. And when you get it to the area that you're happy with, go ahead and turn it upside down. Now remember we were talking about how it was sticking to the insides there. So go ahead and take your brush. And at this point, we just want to go ahead and brush down on the underside of this so we can expose some of the the twigs and whatnot on the underside of our tree. So just go ahead and dress it up with that. And when you're happy with that, we'll come back and we'll finish it up. So we went ahead and got it all dressed up on the bottom. So we exposed all our different branches down there. And the cool thing about sedum, I mean, look at that. Isn't that cool? The way the branches come up, and it just gives it that real realistic look. So at this point in time, our tree's pretty much done. All we need left is to go ahead and take our clear acrylic sealer, matte finish, and I'm gonna go ahead and spray the whole entire tree. So I'm gonna spray on the inside and also on the outside. And what this is gonna do is when it dries, it'll lock everything into place. So these trees won't come apart when you smack into them accidentally if you're trying to marshal a car. So I'm gonna step outside. I'm gonna go ahead and spray this because it is kind of fumey. And we come back, we'll find a place to go ahead and put this on the layout. All right, so we got our little tree here. So with your snips, go ahead and figure out the height that you want to make your tree. So I'm kind of roughing this in, and I'm gonna say, as of right now, I'm gonna cut it down into here. So we'll cut that down and we'll see what we got. So we got that. Cut a little bit more off of it. Yeah, a little bit more off of it. It's not real scientific. We're just kind of winging it here. And here we go. Now we want to go ahead and leave enough that when we make our hole down into our polystyrene, that it compensates for the height of it. So I can put those down, grab an auger, and we figure out our spacing. And I'm just gonna go ahead and stick this down into here and swirl this around. Okay, so I get the hole that I want. Now I'm gonna take my PVA and I'm just gonna dunk this guy down into my PVA here, Mod Podge. And hopefully I don't make a big mess when I do this. And we'll just go ahead and stick it right down into our hole. So we'll get this placed right there. And there we go. So another tree planted on the layout. And let's go ahead and let's put together some bushes now. So go back over to the workbench and we'll do some bushes. Okay, so now we're gonna go ahead and make ourselves a little bush. So here's our sedum, and you can see how these individual twigs come up and they go into their own little bit of foliage. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and grab this guy right here. So I'm gonna go ahead and trim him out so he's a little bit long, so that way I can go ahead and work with it out here. So we can always come back later when we go ahead and plant it and we can trim it up into that area at the last minute. So we'll take this little bit and we'll stick it off to the side over here. And now with the bushes, what I do is where these areas where the dried flowers are at, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna trim those out. So it gets a little bit tedious, but if you look right here on the ends, you can see where the flower is. And let me get something to point here. So you can see where the flower is, and you can see where these little branches are at, right here at the top. What we're gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and trim those flowers off. So let me go ahead and trim this, and what I'm gonna do is kind of pinch it lightly, but we don't wanna pinch it too heavily because we don't wanna break any of those little branches. So I'm just gonna go ahead and pinch it lightly, and then take this and trim over the top. So let me finish this little guy at this point, and I just kind of want to show you that how I trim the tops of these flowers off and what it looks like afterwards. And you can see where those little twigs are all hanging up. That's perfect. That's exactly how we want it. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to go ahead and trim the rest of these dried flowers out. When we come back, we'll go ahead and finish up our bush. Alrighty. So went ahead and trimmed out all the rest of the flowers. And at this point in time, I'm gonna go ahead and take some hairspray and spray this up on top, and we can go ahead and put our foliage on it. So just go ahead and grab your hairspray and give it a good dousing of hairspray. Okay. And you can see that it's on there pretty good, nice and wet. And I'm gonna go ahead and use some of this light green super leaf. So just go ahead and put some of that down on our aluminum foil. And I'm gonna take this and just go ahead and hit this over the top. What this is gonna do is just kind of give us a light foliage. There. Now, since we got that, this right here was that fine turf that we had, and I'm just going to go ahead and lightly hit it onto here. And just want kind of a light clumping effect onto it. Maybe a little bit more. And I like to use the lighter leaves first, so it just kind of gives a little bit more depth to it. And there we go. So just need a little bit of housekeeping here at the bottom with our brush. And go ahead and just dress up your branches just a little bit. Just kind of lightly hit it. And we've got ourselves just a small little bush. And there that is. So we'll go ahead and set this off to the side, and I'll show you how to make one other style of bush with this. Okay, so I went ahead and trimmed off another piece of sedum. This time I'm gonna go ahead and leave the dried flowers up on top, okay? So on the tree, we went ahead and left them up on top, and that's the same way that we're gonna go ahead and attack this bush. Except for instead of using spray glue, I'm gonna go ahead and use hairspray, and I'm gonna go ahead and spray this upper with hairspray. So, take our trusty hairspray, and again, I'm gonna go ahead and go from the lower, like so, and now across the top, and get it just in there good. Load up the hairspray. We got our hairspray. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and use this little camaraderie that I have here, and this is the fine turf. Over here was our coarse turf. This is the fine turf. So, with the fine turf, I'm gonna go ahead and just load it up on top. And you notice I'm kind of mixing some of this light green into it as well. And it gives it a little bit of highlight. Just go ahead and keep on working our fine turf. And moving it all around. Come on, fine turf. And here we go. And with those, a little bit of light green in there. Hit it lightly. And here we go. Now what I'll do with this guy and this guy to finish them up the rest of the way, to lock everything in, go ahead and take that clear acrylic sealer, the matte finish, and spray these off. But again, like how we did on this and dress up the lower, you know, kind of do a little bit of last minute on that, but set him off to the side. And again, do a little bit of housekeeping on your lower branches. Okay, so went ahead and got those all dressed up on the bottom. Last stage is to go ahead and take this sealer. So I'm gonna go outside, spray it. When we come back, we'll go ahead and plane them. So we got our scissors, got our auger, and our Mod Podge. So big thing is where we're gonna put these. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and stick them right up here on top of this berm right here. So take this guy and we'll just set him down for the time being. And we'll take this guy and figure out where we're going to put him. And I don't think I'm going to need my scissors for this. So if we, nice thing is I trim this down enough that I think I can go ahead and just set this right down, bring it up. Again, take our trusty Mod Podge and dunk our bush, and then take him and just set him right down into our layout. And there we go. Nice thing about Mod Podge too is when it dries, it'll dry clear, and that matte finish, it won't be glossy or anything down at the bottom. It'll just blend right in. So there's our one bush there. And I'm gonna stick this guy just right over here on the edge. Now this guy I am going to trim just a little bit. So take a couple inches off the bottom. Get the auger in here. And then we'll dunk him. The big thing is to remember where you put your hole at. And there we go. We'll set him right down in here. All right, there we go. We planted 2 bushes. So that is how we make sedum bushes. So when we come back, we'll wrap it all up. All right, so I got in touch with my inner Bob again. Made some happy trees and a couple of happy bushes. So let's go take one final look at them. So if we go down here, we got our 2 bushes in there, and it's, you know, it's really cool. I mean, it gives it that little extra bit of realism on your layout. So those guys turned out real well. And if we look at our grove of trees that we have up in here, you know, those guys look really good too. Now, remember I told you about the Mod Podge, and it's still wet, so it's still white. But when it does dry, it'll dry like this, where you don't see anything. It just go ahead and clears right up, and it has that matte finish. So there we go. And I think Bob was happy because we made some happy trees. So if you liked the video, like it, subscribe to my channel, and share it with others. And next time on Boone's Slackhart Garage, we'll figure it out. All right? See you guys later.